today's weather tonight. Here as and I will be bringing you tonight's top 5 stories. We usually start this off with a brief look at our volcanic activity. So let's check in on what happened today. All right. Got Mount Ibu and Lewitobi up there. Oh, Ibu sent ash all the way up to flight level 230. That's pretty high up there. Then as we look at our images, we have another one from that's Lewitobi Laki summit erupting. We saw that picture yesterday. Here's a satellite image of that eruption. Most of these we covered yesterday. Samiru, Marapi, and Dukono all continue their volcanic ash explosions, as well as Popocatépetl in central Mexico. Fuego in Guatemala has acted up again, with some volcanic ash emissions observed. And Songhai in Ecuador has consistent volcanic ash emissions. And there's still puff emissions coming from Sabancaya in Peru. Thanks again to volcanodiscovery.com. This is not sponsored, but I am just kind of reading you their work. So thank you for doing that work. Here's a great image of Dukono from this morning with its daily eruption. I believe this one has been on a more or less... No, this hasn't been on a routine explosion time. About 8:26 local time, a powerful explosion took place at the crater vent. A gray ash-rich column released tephra material 8,000 feet towards the east. The Volcano Observatory reported a seismic signal with a max amplitude of 27 millimeters at a duration of 69 seconds. In order to mitigate risk, there has been a 3-kilometer exclusion zone from the Malupang Warirang crater. And everybody else, Reventador has new volcanic ash emissions. Popo is down to light volcanic ash. Okay. So that is so far. I mean, this is just the teeny tiny little bit of ash from Popo. And here is Fuego going off as usual. Observed up to 15,000 feet or flight level 150. Okay. Now, next, let's go to earthquake news, and then I'll do our headlines. Okay, so, by the way, is everybody here in the chat? I don't know. I did get started a little bit late today. Oh, I also forgot to get this set up in a way that I like. I had to get, me small, image big. Okay. Let's look at earthquakes. All right. And since yesterday's string of big, deep earthquakes, we have seen some more deep earthquakes in this little diamond-shaped plate between Taiwan, Philippines, Marianas Trench, and Japan. We saw 4.0 at 427 kilometers deep here. I think this is an island nation, the Bonin Islands, Japan. I think that's where that fancy charcoal comes from. Is that right? Hold on. Is that what I'm thinking of? No, that is not what I'm thinking of. What am I thinking of? Binchotan. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Binchotan charcoal. I don't know why I thought it came from the island of Bonin. Anyway, Bonin Islands region is where we had this this latest earthquake, and that is actually a pretty popular spot for earthquakes. It's a hop-in club. Then right next to it on the other side of this diamond, we had a 4.1 at 38 kilometers depth. On the other extreme, we had a 4.8 at 35 kilometers depth. Right on this southern part, a 5.1 at 29. And here we get back into deep quakes with the 4.5 at 110 kilometers depth and a 4.8 at 60. Now down into the Indonesian island chain, we get 4.8 at 158. So getting shallower. If we zoom out and look at this picture from the side, we can kind of see the distribution of depths there. Looks like we've got a couple more popping up in the mainland of Australia, closer to Perth. These are 0 kilometer depths, so theoretically, these should be able to be felt if you're really, really paying attention, if they're 0 kilometer depth and over a 2.5. We had a 4.6 on Papua New Guinea, and that was a little deeper down at 67 kilometers. 4.5 here in the middle as we head towards the Vanuatu Islands. That's at 366 kilometers, so that's a deep one again. Then a shallow here at 4.5. Another deep one in Vanuatu, 4.5 at 249 kilometers depth. Let's see. Sorry, my feeds are acting up as they refresh. 4.8, medium deep. Okay, here's a deep. This 4.5 at 512 kilometers is the deepest here. And then we had a couple at 150-ish. Then as we head over towards China, through China, actually, we're into Iran at had a 4.6. We've got these 3.5s here. That is in the Eastern Caucasus region. Let's see. Do I get a location? I don't think I know where to get the location on the Russian geophysical website. But right next to it, there was another 3.6 at 50 kilometers depth and one at 5 kilometers depth. So this is kind of a stack. Then we get into the little cluster that is Greece and the surrounding Crete area. Again, more 3.5s and upper range 2s coming in at 5 kilometers to 15 kilometers depth, maybe 20 at the deepest. But they are all, the 3.2 at 21 kilometers depth here is in the mainland near where we had that 4.8, I believe, the other day. Now, let's make sure we're not missing any. As we go on to the other half of the world, we had a 5.0 in, where is this? In Peru. 5.0 in Peru at 10 kilometers depth. We had a 4.5 and a 4.1 down here in Chile. They're like just barely on the coast of Chile. Then we had, I still left my, okay, that's why I left my magnitudes down. Quiet day for Puerto Rico, where Puerto Rico has been seeing a lot of activity over 3. It looks like they only got up to a 2.6 today. So maybe things are quieting down there for a second. Looks like the largest one we had in Mexico today was this 4.0 all the way down there at 109 kilometers depth. So let's turn this sideways. You can see over here, this is some pretty deep quaking in Mexico. We're getting, that's not even the deepest one. Looks like maybe, 129 and 115 and 109. Those are some pretty deep quakes here as we get into southern Mexico. I think these deep ones are the ones clustered just offshore there. Then in the mainland US, we've got a 1.4 up here in the New Madrid seismic zone, just on the Tennessee side of that area. And then a 2.2 here, just north of Atlanta, Georgia, here in Buford again. That is on the Chattahoochee River. So that's interesting because that's where an earthquake struck the other day. We've also got some popping up, some lower level quakes here popping up in Oklahoma, as well as central and western Texas. There's also one here in the South Texas. Is this the San Antonio region? Yeah, like southeast of San Antonio. A 3 point, we got up to a 3. Oh, that's in Mexico. I was going to say we got up to a 3.7 in West Texas. Usually they're 2.5 and under, but yeah, that was a 3.7 in Mexico. Then let me take the quake ring sizes down because remember we have lots of tremors here in the West Coast, so it's hard to identify the locations. Looks like most of this is centered around Southern California, right on the San Andreas Fault, and then also up into the Bay Area. These don't look to be too large of a magnitude. Remember, if all this momentum went in one place, it'd be a large magnitude, but looks like the largest one is this. No, 3.2. And that is technically on the Baja Peninsula, so we're in the clear there. And then one up in Montana, one up in Utah. Okay, let's continue on our little update. We got, some biggins out here in Alaska. We got a 4.6 at 86 kilometers depth. That is right here. That is on Karluk, Alaska. Looks like everybody there in that peninsula would be able to notice it. This is right next to the Becheroff Lake here on the Alaska Peninsula. As we go down in magnitude, you see we had a handful of 3s closer to the mainland near Anchorage and up in Denali National Park area. So these 3 happened up in the national park. These happened closer to the city. And we had a 5.0, a surface 5, and a deep 5 here in Bezmiany, Russia, Kamchatka area. Oh, and let's not forget the 4.6 in the middle of the Aleutian Island chain, all the way down at 235 kilometers depth. So that's pretty cool. 5.0 at the surface and 2 4.9s at 49 and 45 kilometers depth. Then as we head down the Kuril Islands, we got even further down with a 210 depth and 192 depth for these 4.6 and 4.5. Then we're back to pretty much where we started, looking at these deeper quakes near Japan. These northern Japan quakes are in the mid-range 4s as well. Hawaii looks like it is heating back up as well, not to be left out. And pretty quiet from Antarctica today. So from that, let's go back to checking out our Earth-related headlines today. I'm going to start. Well, since we were just looking at the ice cap, I want to start by talking about, or we were just talking about Alaska. Let's talk about Alaska. The McDonald fire is burning in south of Fairbanks, Alaska. So interesting. We just saw that there were 3 magnitude 3 and higher earthquakes in that area. I always find it so fascinating when there are coincidental natural disaster phenomenon. Uh, Officials believe lightning is to blame for sparking Alaska's largest fire of the year in what has otherwise been a down season for wildfire activity. The BLM, Bureau of Land Management, Alaska Fire Service reports that more than 32,000 acres of wilderness south of Fairbanks are on fire. It started Saturday in what is known as the Tanana Flats Training Area, which is used by the U.S. military for live fire drills and other training activities. I don't think they mean fire drills, like what we did in school. I think they mean lockdown drills, like they're using live ammunition fire drills, right? Because it would be really ironic if they were testing fighting fires and then accidentally set a fire. I don't think that's what they mean. I think they mean U.S. military uses this area for live fire drills and other training activities. I think that means that they're just training to kill people. You know, it's only that. So, you know, that's not going to start a wildfire. Personnel had been assigned to the fire, which crews are allowing to naturally burn due to its remoteness. Okay, so this is so remote that it's hard to contain. Firefighters have taken steps to safeguard several remote cabins, which are the only structures facing imminent threat from the flames. Okay, that's good. That and whoever's homesteading out there. Maybe there's a grizzly man. Just he doesn't know about it because he talks to the bears instead of the internet. Widespread rainfall on Monday in the interior region of the state reduced fire activity and provided firefighters with a larger window of time to implement precautionary measures. So that is good news, I guess. Wildfire season. This is wildfire season typically. So Drought Monitor says that the driest regions are situated southeast of Juneau. However, these levels are still relatively modest compared to the severe drought conditions prevailing in Canadian provinces of British Columbia and Alberta. Okay. Transition out of El Nino climate into La Nina, meaning that we're in a neutral status, complicates wildfire outlooks. We were just talking about the El Nino, the ENSO, the other day, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. So maybe we are in a transitionary phase. Summer thunderstorms can bring minimal rainfall, but accompanied by high lightning, which can spark fires. So, really interesting. I find it fascinating that this is Tanahay River, Tanahay. I think it's the Tanahay River. That's a really interesting coincidence that it's where the U.S. military trains, and there's been some. Let's look at this on map. Major shift in global climate pattern is unfolding, you say. What could have given it away? Mudslide hits Dagestan. I don't even know where that is. I'm a bad geographer. Oh, that's a place in Russia. Massive mudslide hit Russia. All right. Oh, God, that looks terrible. That's not what you want to hear from your newscaster. Oh, God, that looks terrible. Wow. Really? devastating, honestly. This is the melding of our atmosphere and earthquake reports. The gradient between an earthquake and a flood is a mudslide. There's always common ground between two phenomena, and mudslide is the halfway point between a landslide and a flood, and a landslide is the halfway point between a atmospheric movement and an earthquake. It all depends on your depth and amount of energy let off. Okay, anyway, I clicked on this so I could go to a different. I wanted to look at Zoom Earth and see if they've got this fire indicated on there. Do Let's see where this McDonald fire is. We do still see tons of fires burning out of control in British Columbia and Alberta. Yeah, McDonald fire, 0% contained, unfortunately. Yeah, that is just southeast of Fairbanks. And then I'm going back to look at Earthquake 3D at the same time. Looks like, yeah, in fact, there have been some earthquakes in the general area. I'd say that, yeah, okay. So I'm going to cut back to Earthquake 3D just so I can show you. This is the general area where the fire is happening, and we are seeing some 1.0, 1.1, and 2.0 level earthquakes in that area, all pretty shallow. But I'm not saying they're related. I just think it's interesting that, like, what does the changing thermal gradient of the mass of the Earth do to the pressure exerted between faults? What effect does the changing temperature of the soil from a wildfire have on the thresholds of movement? I think that's a really interesting question that I have not looked for research on, that now I'm going to look into. I think that's a more responsible way to ask these questions. Is what is the connection, and has it been looked into? The connection between wildfires and earthquakes. I don't know. But as we see, we are looking at an image of satellite imagery that has some precipitation indication on it. So obviously we've got a juicy atmospheric update to get into. Invest area 90L is only up to 30 mile per hour wind sustained, but so it's still not a tropical depression or low, but it is an invest area. And we had some severe weather throughout the plains today. I believe Illinois, Iowa, Missouri. You guys still see me? Yeah. Okay. I'm not out of internet. Okay, yeah. Looks like we had a handful here in western Kansas around 4:40, 4:30 today. And then also in Illinois around 6:50, 7:03. We had tornado reports, probably the same tornado, spotted by train spotter Ethan Schisler. Sheriff's office reported structural damage, and over here as you get to Bushnell. Again, the same train spotter Ian Schisler reported tornado on the ground 3.7 miles. So there was one tornado at least that tore through Illinois today, and then in Kansas, I wonder if these were the same. Looks like, which one? Okay, this one up here was well before the other reports. Train spotter saw a land spout in the area that lasted 10 to 15 minutes at 3 o'clock. Then we had land spout report from 4:40. Could have been the same one, maybe. I wonder if it was the same one. Social media pictures around 4:30. So these might have been two concurrent or successive. I find it interesting that the first report was up here at 3 o'clock and the rest of the reports were like as we went through the 4 o'clock hour. They seem to go down the line, but the first and last reports were right next to each other. Anyway, yeah, a little bit of severe weather today. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're seeing on Radar Omega. Currently, still, unfortunately, getting a lot of rain in South Florida. They do not have anywhere to put it. Stop giving them water. They don't know what to do with it. We've got, a nasty little squall line just ripped through the Keys, and we still have a lot of terrible looking weather between Cuba and Key West. Then even as we get out to Nassau, we're getting, this system is dragging northward, but still maintaining a lot of precipitation in the Keys. Then as we got into the central U.S., I mean, let's not neglect that up here near Quebec and upstate New York area, we've got pretty severe thunderstorms running through the area, special marine statements and special weather statements, as well as severe thunderstorm warnings for hail up to 0.75 inches and 60 mile per hour winds. But the real juicy part today is we are looking at considerable thunderstorm threat, damage threat, considerable winds up to 70 miles per hour. A mesoscale discussion for flash flooding possible, and a mesoscale discussion for severe thunderstorm watch. Let's see what they have to say about that. The western flank of early evening mesoscale convective system lingers across western central Missouri. Latest radar data indicates continues to suggest hail near golf ball size at times in the strongest updrafts, locally damaging winds and hail. However, this activity is migrating through the primary instability axis, and nocturnal cooling may lead to increasingly elevated updrafts. So in this case, nocturnal cooling is not slowing down convection. It is unfortunately strengthening it because it's moving through the main instability region. Then it looks like this flash flood warning is probably in the clear by now. Definitely it was issued at 8:46 Eastern time. Yeah, we're like 4 hours behind it. Everything that was passing through here is gone now, but we do have a little nasty cell near Wichita, looking at 50 mile per hour wind gusts and a severe thunderstorm warning for up to inch-size hail and 60 mile per hour winds happening here in near the panhandle of Oklahoma. But really, Kansas City, everywhere from Kansas City to Jefferson City is what's looking at a nasty, nasty squall line right now. Let's see if we can roll the clip. Oh, I forgot to mention Indianapolis and all throughout Indiana is also getting really creamed with tons of nasty convection. We don't see a whole lot of rotation in the horizontal to the Earth's surface plane. But I also don't think that we're looking at anything too tornadic right now. Earlier in the day, though, we definitely had more chances of that. Let's go back and see what this system looked like throughout the day. Because I'm here to report on what actually happened, at least in this timeline. The timeline in which I made this video today, this was the weather. There you go. Hope that's helpful. The ones where I made a different video or didn't make it at all, I guess different weather happened. But this is what happened in this one. Oh, look how nasty that storm is. Yeah, I can definitely see how that produced a tornado. Up here near Quincy. And over here in Kansas, I can definitely see that too. And why we would have Panhandle of Texas power outages. Oh, and you can see this moving like really parallel to the axis. Okay, so we can see this develop. This is the little system that produced tornadoes in western Kansas today. And this is the little system that produced tornadoes in western Illinois. The word Quincy is covering up most of the juice on this one. So let's zoom in even further. This one's getting a little bit of rotation on it. That was probably right around sunset. Right around sunset, you got a little bit of the puffy Cheeto spiral. Yeah, that's a nasty looking isolated cell. I can definitely see that rotating. As it moved into the lateral, you saw that hook form up and then dissipate. But still, nasty system. Here's where I was talking about it rotating like a double helix right there. And then it starts to dissolve into a slightly less organized system, but still really nasty updrafts on that one. Chicago and South Bend also didn't get out of today unscathed. Pretty much everywhere in the Great Lakes area went through some sort of severe weather today, but this is by no means as severe as we saw earlier in the year. It's like, oh, we only had 2 mesoscale discussions. We only have 24 active warnings right now. Severe thunderstorm warnings, considerable in Missouri. Considerable damage threat. Special weather statement before. Oh, and my stream went dead. There we go. Let's show on stream. I like to notice when like here when it looks like you're rotating a spring, but in the axis parallel to the ground. I like to think of that as like very clearly roll rolling clouds. It's like very clear how the convection is working internally in the cloud when you see that. But that doesn't mean that there's going to be rotation perpendicular to the ground. You would need that rotation to be dragged down into the vertical, like do a complete 90-degree rotation. And it's not rotating in that direction. Maybe that's not a very clear explanation of the concept I'm talking about, but right as you see it move into the mesoscale discussion area, you see a little bit of the spring turning. I don't know if you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, but it's a really interesting little phenomenon that I've noticed, a little pattern that I've noticed in like linear convective systems. Oh, we just got a new special weather statement near Logansport, Indiana. That makes sense because that looks nasty. Probably looking at some terrible winds on the backside of that storm as well. Okay. Oh, and I don't like. Well, that doesn't look too bad. All right. Let's go to, I wanted to look at our global weather. Okay, yeah, so we had lightning sparking a fire in Alaska, the McDonald fire. It's already burned 32,000 acres. I don't want to talk about Doomsday Glacier yet. Oh, torrential rainstorms flood roads in Spain. The rain in Spain does not stay mostly on the plains. Does not land mostly on the plains. Apparently, the rain in Spain mostly floods through Spain's Murcia. I don't know how to say that because I took German because I'm an idiot. But that looks like a terrible flood. So that's really unfortunate. But we did also see a mudslide in Russia today. That is not by any means, that's not the only place that there are floods happening though. Interesting story that I didn't know where to put this in the update. Toxic garlic should have prompted EPA to warn against gardening near Ohio derailment, Watchdog says. And that is basically this watchdog group, the Government Accountability Project, has gone ahead and done its own independent testing with some local farmers and gardeners in East Palestine, Ohio, where that Norfolk Southern train derailment happened last fall. This is the next growing season since after the train derailment, and the EPA says that they tested winter wheat, malting barley, pasture grasses, and rye from area farms, and they're all within typical ranges. The problem with that, EPA, in my opinion, is that you only tested grasses and grains. You only tested monocots. You didn't test different types of plants. These are also there are root vegetables that these people tested, like the garlic, that also would compile and store nutrients and other compounds from the ground differently than grasses are going to. You use different types of plants in bioremediation because different plants bioaccumulate different pollutants in different fashions. How can I say differently? Certain plants grab onto certain chemicals more than other plants do. So I think they should have tested not only garlic, but also some edible flowers or even trees. I think that testing only grain grasses and typical farm crop type crops is a mistake where you would probably overlook a lot of pollution because of, yeah. Dioxins are the uh, chemical that they're concerned about the contamination of because uh, the PVC, the precursor for PVC was on the train cars that derailed here, and they burned those off. And the dioxins are a result of that. Yeah, this is the guy, Scott Smith, who is behind the Government Accountability Project, and he got into this when his plant, he owned a factory, and his business was ruined because of a toxic waste spill near his plant. And so now he is trying to hold the government accountable for adequately testing for pollutants. But yeah, he also technically sells a product which repels water and absorbs oil for the cleanup of toxic waste spills that are oils. So, some people say there might be a conflict of interest there. I think maybe the EPA should test more. I think that is probably a great idea. But people who live there are subsistence farmers. I mean, a lot of us are now these days. Like the person in this photo, the lady in this photo, has to have a garden row, garden rows, or a grocery row in the garden, which is, you're gonna be eating off of what you're growing. That's subsistence farming. And so they can't, just say, oh, I guess I just won't eat from my vegetable garden this year. This is part and parcel of how they live. So I think the EPA does owe a little bit more testing to these folks. Then there's this fun story about the Doomsday Glacier melting by 1.5 miles. That's the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica. But the Doomsday Glacier is because it's called that because it's one of these tipping point climate bellwethers of if this whole glacier, which is melting really rapidly, completely melts, then it has enough water and volume in it to raise sea levels by almost 2 feet. But as we know, sea levels don't rise uniformly throughout the globe. They actually rise faster in some areas than others. This would also kind of, it would rapidly, it would speed along the melting of other parts of Antarctica even faster if we got rid of this ice barrier. So if it does actually melt, this will be just another thing that we have to add to climate models that we don't currently account for, such as methane and permafrost thaw. Those are things that are actually happening that we don't actually account for very well right now in most models. Let's take a look at global weather right now. Actually, I wanted to go to Zoom Earth instead of Null Earth. I like the mapping options in Null Earth better, but looks like we've got some wildfires out here in Arizona and New Mexico as well. The Indios fire is 90% contained, whilst the Antone fire is only 18% contained. That one seems to be the most uncontained. Dry Canyon fire is only 50 acres. And then there are controlled burns as well. We got another little something, a little disturbance happening off the coast of Mexico. I think that maybe this is where we're gonna be looking for most of our tropical development this season since the Atlantic seems to be so stifled recently. Something weird is going on there. There should have been more hurricanes both this year and last year from this Atlantic. But we don't know what's going on there. There are some wildfires burning in Brazil as well. I believe this is the Mato Grosso do Sul. That is what we talked about the other day in that headline, that news article that we read about what's it called? The Canatal. This area that's supposed to be wetlands. This is supposed to be wetlands, but unfortunately, the rains that were supposed to fall there fell in Rio Grande do Sul. So just let's see, about 888 miles difference, which isn't that long when you're thinking about being able to move hundreds of miles per day. 800 miles difference is causing catastrophic flooding in this province and drought and wildfires in this province. So really interesting to see the impact of slightly shifting locations of weather phenomena having a huge impact. Speaking of huge impact, this is the rains that just fell in Spain's. Let's see if we can. Oh, this is going to play really slow for some reason. A lot of rain over here in Czech Republic. No, that's not what it's called anymore. Croatia, and Slovenia. We just lost our load. We just lost our load, y'all. Oh, man. Yeah, there's the rain in Spain. Not really falling on the plain. Falling really up here near Barcelona. And then sweeping off into the Mediterranean again. Then sweeping through Marseille into Milan. And through the Alps, still putting out some snow. But looks like we've also currently got a big wave of rain headed into Ireland. So everybody over in Ireland, get ready for the rain. Pretty calm Western Pacific right now, actually. Not too much to speak of. Also, lots of wildfires in Russia. Northern Hemisphere is doing bad with wildfires. I think the entire Southern Hemisphere, we've only got these like 2 areas. It's just the Congo and Brazil. I mean, there are multiple thousands of acres each, maybe 6 total wildfires, each about 20,000 acres at most. But the Northern Hemisphere is really, I mean, Canada alone is having more acreage burnt than the entire Southern Hemisphere right now. Northern Hemisphere is really on fire. And I mean, that can be seen from our lack of ice caps. They have a bigger ice cube down there. Of course, they're not as hot. It's such an oversimplification that it's dumb, but like it makes me laugh. Oh yeah, there's no ice cube on top of North America, so we're on fire. But there's a big ice cube down on the southern hemisphere, so of course they're cooler. That's dumb. That's not how it works, but kind of. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. Okay, looks like in the Schumann resonances today, we did have some interspersed power bursts, some vertical spikes. I'd say like 5 to 6 throughout the day, and an increasing in power levels in mode 3 and 4, though now they've gone back down again. An anomalous little burst in mode 4 only, as well as another sinusoidal wave, like a little parabola here, right around mode 4. Let's see what that meant on our amplitudes. Oh, yeah, you can definitely see it on our amplitudes, including that little mode 4 anomaly there, where we got mode 4 power instead of the other modes. More power than the other modes, actually. Mode 1 was sitting at 5, and this peaked up to 6. So at the time, for a while, there was a little bit of a mode 4 imbalance. But usually you expect to see the lower modes have more power in them because they are lower wavelengths and can hold more power. Speaking of the wavelengths, let's look at the inverse of that, the frequency. Smaller frequency, longer wavelength, smaller frequency. Wait, no, that's the same thing twice. Smaller wavelength, higher frequency. Okay. Then, yeah, we're looking at, still pretty high on mode 1. We're sitting right about average, but these are a little bit elevated. Mode 3 is kind of low, but overall, sitting a little bit higher on our frequencies. I'm sure that people who are really sensitive are probably feeling better right now, because I feel like when the frequencies are really low, I feel low. Is it just me? Let's see if we can watch our CMEs today. Maybe. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's not even a very good video of it, is it? Oh, that was the type 4 from yesterday. Here's the type 2 from yesterday. Oh, that's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. That is probably coming from not the Earth-facing disk, probably coming from the opposite side of the sun. But I think it still is contributing to the proton storm. Oh, there's another beautiful one that, again, might have been from a rear-facing, non-Earth-facing coronal mass ejection, but it does look like we still have a little bit of proton flux coming in with those sparkles. This is Mercury passing into view, by the way. We did have an M-class flare today. We had two. We had one very late last night, so kind of three. One very late last night, and then a M3.22 around 1640 UTC today, and then an M2.46 around 420 UTC on June 14th. So we're getting a little bit more X-ray flux activity. Looks like we've got a little bit more of a periodicity to the base noise level. So maybe we will start ramping up again. With solar activity, we are also seeing the rapid development of region 3712. We have now got a beta gamma classification on that. It looks pretty healthy, as you can see here. It was just a little alpha organization when it first came onto the limb of the sun, but it has since snowballed into this great big formation. We have high hopes for it. It doesn't look too impressive on this imagery, but that's because it's still small yet. It's still spatially small, but it has real magnetic complexity. So that's very exciting for people who want to see big solar weather. You can see our proton flux is decreasing, but not by a whole lot. It'll probably go back down to nominal within a day or two if there are no additional proton storms. Um, let's see our SOHO imagery, and maybe we can see these coronal mass ejections better for our coronograms. You can see the Mercury right there and Venus right there moving into and out of view. Oh, there's one, there's two. There's a few little ones also spraying out in sympathetic resonance. Oh, that's a beautiful launch. Beautiful. This gives me the kind of visual ASMR feeling that I get when I watch earwax removal videos. It's like, that must feel so relieving for you, son, to get that gas out of you. It's almost like hearing somebody burp really nice or fart really nice. It's like, that must have been such a relief. I can't imagine what kind of pressure you were under before. If you just got rid of that much mass, that much coronal mass ejected, you must have been in so much discomfort before. You know what I mean? Or when somebody blows their nose real good, you're like, finally, thank you. It's like, I know the sun feels less constipated now. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Let's look at our sunspot region 3712. Looks healthy. It's a healthy boy. And by healthy, I mean, if that was on your skin, you would go to the doctor to see it. That's a healthy sunspot region right there because it looks like unhealthy rash. We got some really deep colors in both the positive and the negative areas. This has already launched a C 2.6. So our M flares today were not from that region. What region were they from? I guess the M flares were not from a Earth facing disk region. But yeah, really beautiful work so far. I can't wait to see what this region does. I guess I can't zoom in any more than that, but oh no, don't make me. Okay. Yeah, beautiful. We haven't watched any SDO imagery in a while. Let's see if we can watch this develop. Do they have a movie of the magnetogram? Because I would love that. Would love to see a movie of the magnetogram right now. Check on chat while we're doing this. My Fair Lady. Oh, yes. Thank you for getting my Rain in Spain reference. And yes, Aaron Brockovich would agree with me. We do need a little bit more environmental testing. Maybe then there would be jobs for scientists that aren't sad. I'll put it that way. Maybe if there were more environmental quality testing jobs, I wouldn't be faced with the current job market. Yeah, let's see this thing really evolve out of nothing. Beautiful. Blooming like one of those flower tea things. Those tea flowers that you put in a hot water pot and it blooms. Gorgeous. It's just unfolding so beautifully, so perfectly as it rotates onto the Earth's surface that it's almost like telling the story, or the sun, Earth-facing surface of the sun. It's like telling the story of how far across the sun it's gotten. This is the baby stage. And then we're getting into our adolescent phase where we're a beta gamma type. And now, maybe soon, we'll develop our own delta region, and we'll be a beta gamma delta region, and we'll be the next big thing. Region 3713 also isn't bad looking. It looks healthy. It just doesn't look as complex. Let's see. This compiled 3 wavelength view is probably going to be a pretty one. This is a good approximation of the full range of colors. By colors, I mean wavelengths, because colors are wavelengths. Excuse me. That's beautiful. You see it really well on the 1700 angstrom one too. You can see that there are multiple little deepening areas. Although 3713 has a pretty deep area now too. Deeper than when I looked earlier today. Okay. Looks like, dang. Let's look at auroral activity. Probably really low. Yeah, pretty low. Well, we have a slightly increased hemispheric power in both hemispheres, but not really storm conditions. We definitely have good coupling of the interplanetary magnetic field right now because it's southward, where we're northward, and you want north-south to couple magnetically, but not looking too elevated right now. Let's go over to today's planetary weather. Today is Thursday, Thor's Day. It is a Jupiter day. We barely started this broadcast at a Jupiter hour, and I've mostly been talking during a Mars hour. That is because, as I mentioned before, I was watching earwax cleaning videos and I got distracted. Have you ever seen them? They're so satisfying to watch people irrigate the ear canal. It's just such a great visual satisfaction. Okay, we've got a little kite formation applying right now. We've also got we're applying to a big old T-square in the mutable signs of Pisces, Virgo, and Gemini. We're currently experiencing the Mercury Cazimi. It is about to go exact within hours, I think. We're at 23 degrees and 23 degrees. We're only 23 degrees and 2 minutes and 23 degrees and 38 minutes. Arc minutes and arc seconds aren't even on here, but that's what I wanted to clear my throat of. Sorry. Then we've got Venus at 26 degrees. Venus is actually in more of an exact aspect to Neptune than these 2 conjunct planets are. But the moon, as it will soon conjoin Black Moon Lilith, aka its apogee point, the moon will be making a T-square with all 3 of these. It's currently making a really solid, the moon is solidly squaring the Mercury Cazimi, and the moon is in Virgo, which is another sign ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and they're 2 of the signs that have a square aspect to them, and have the same ruler. The same thing goes for Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius and Pisces. So the mutable signs are the only ones that have a square aspect between their rulership sign. Like they're the only signs that have a square aspect between them and the other sign that shares their common ruler. Like, for example, the fixed signs, well, we have like a one connection between Aquarius and Saturn that share a ruler, and kind of a one connection between sharing the luminaries as a rulership between Sun ruling Leo and Moon ruling Cancer. But I find it really interesting that I've never noticed that the mutables are the only ones like that. Because the fixed and cardinal signs, at least one of them is ruled by a luminary and the other by Saturn. And then Venus ruling, and then, yeah, Venus and Mars rule Aries and Taurus and Libra and Scorpio, and they're in a 7 aspect to each other. So a Mars ruled opposes a Venus ruled, a Mars ruled opposes a Venus ruled, and they're in a 7th harmonic aspect to each other. Whereas in the luminary ruled signs and the Saturn ruled signs, a luminary opposes a Saturn and a luminary opposes a Saturn, but is right next to its common ruler. It's in a one vibration with its common ruler. But when it comes to mutables, we are just evenly drawn, like really crossed out, by having the common ruler be a square aspect away. I've never noticed that before, and it's really interesting that it's popping out to me right now on the day of the Mercury Cazimi in Gemini square the moon in Mercury. Quite weird. These are just the mundane interpretations of chart interpretation itself. Of course, I would make that observation today because Mercury, even delineating charts is a mercurial event. Anyway, off topic, maybe on topic, I don't know. We've also got Chiron making a sextile to where this conjunction is taking place. So Chiron in Aries is sextiling and informing this Mercury Sun conjunction, which is also very close conjunct to Venus, though Venus just had her moment in the Sun, literally. So Chiron being the local asteroid represented by the narrative of the wounded healer. We look to this place to be your greatest weakness, but also your greatest medicine, your greatest gift to the world, not your greatest strength, but the thing that you can heal the world through more than anybody else can, is your Chiron placement. So for Aries, this is very intellectually based, very not as much intellect, but ego and idea of self and idea of your structure and your framework and the way you see the world, the way you operate, the kind of your operating system and your user settings on your computer, like how you want your dashboard to look, as things that I think of as related to Aries. And also your physical appearance, outward appearance, head and brain, your entire head and face area is also associated with Aries in medical astrology. Yes, medical astrology is a thing. It's a very ancient and not as well scientifically studied practice as it should be, but I think that the scientific revolution should have spent more time experimenting and peer reviewing astrology rather than completely getting rid of it. I think that getting rid of astrology in the scientific revolution was a holdover of prejudice against astrology as witchcraft from the Christian church, and was not actually based on good, sound, peer-reviewed scientific process. I think there's no good, sound, peer-reviewed scientific process that proves it either, but I think that there is enough historical and cultural significance of marking the passage of time through the movement of planets that it warrants a second look into the coincidences that occur during certain astronomical transits. Okay. So that's my opinion on this Cazimi square moon in Gemini and Virgo day. This is also opposing Neptune, which is in Pisces and going to tell us about illusions, false narratives. It's not going to expose them, but it's definitely going to make us aware of it's going to bring the subconscious to the forefront, bring and this is also where we had a Mercury retrograde last year, this little area of Virgo. A Mercury retrograde which opposed Neptune. Yeah, that's a lot. I know that that's a lot to say today, but I have a feeling we're going to be pulling some knowledge back up from the depths eventually. And this is as great a day to say it as any. I really think that we should be giving astrology a fair shot at the scientific process that it never got because of Piscean religious persecution. Yeah, I think it was dogma and tradition that threw out this way of knowing, kind of threw out the baby with the bathwater there. Okay. Speaking of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, I think that's very much what I'm getting from this Saturn-Neptune co-presence in Pisces is, it's all shit. I don't want to wade through it. Let's just get rid of it all. No, actually, you don't have anything left if you get rid of everything that has a little bit of shit in it. Technically, everything's a little bit shitty. That's what a process is. Process is eating, digesting, and shitting. Venus is hot. Venus is so hot. It's literally physically hot. Does that mean we'll get a hurricane in South Texas next week? I am not a very good forecaster. I tell you guys what is currently happening. But let's, for shits and giggles, let's look at 1 week ahead of time in the astrology. Looks like the sun we will almost be at a full moon. So we'll be in a full moon phase of the moon. The sun will just be entering Cancer as we would have almost had a blue moon. Moon in Sagittarius, sun just entering Cancer with 3 planets in Cancer. Usually a good indication that there will be a lot of watery tumult, especially with that moon square Saturn and Neptune square Sun, Venus, and Mercury. Definitely feel like there is going to be some. Oh, and we have Mars in Taurus, sextile Mercury in Cancer. Yeah, I think there is going to be, not necessarily there will be a hurricane in Texas next week, but I think there's going to be some devastating rainfall somewhere. Let's take a look at what our currently traditionally respected forecasting mechanisms have to say about that. I haven't gone to pivotal weather in a while. Let's see what that is. What does the National Weather Service say? hot as balls. Going to be hot as balls everywhere in 7 days. Now, this is a 7-day forecast, so we take it with a grain of salt, but our highs, our lows are going to be in the 70s 3 days from now. Let's take a look at 5 days from now. Oh, yeah, this is just going to get more and more boiling. Whatever gets set off in 7 days, I have a feeling it's going to be a nasty. It'll have a lot of energy. There's probably going to be a lot of cape. Let's see. Do we have models on this? Yes. Let's see what the GFS has to say. And let's look at want to look at 850 millibar relative humidity. Let's see. How far have we loaded this one? Wait, what's a week from today? June 21st. Oh, June 21st, a week from today. Oh yeah, well, technically, ish. I almost clicked correctly. I almost clicked on the right date. Let's see. GFS definitely has huge amounts of moisture at the 850 millibar level. And wind coming in from it doesn't show a low developing, but let's look at mean sea level pressure. It doesn't look like there is supposed to be anything developing, but that is in the opinion of GFS. Let's look at the Euro model. Oh, and that doesn't go far enough. Euro doesn't go far enough out to show us that. GFS does, though. Okay. Oh, we're not gonna... I guess I had to go back to the 0Z run to... Whatever. How did I get back there? Go back. Okay, there we go. Let's see do we have vorticity? Upper air vorticity? Yeah. Doesn't look like nothing's possible. It definitely, especially still out here in the Florida Keys, my God. We're definitely going to get some tracking from not definitely. It looks like we probably are going to get some upper level tracking from the tropics into the country, but anything that develops would have to go across the thinnest part of central Mexico in order to arc back around into Texas for there to be a hurricane in Texas this time and next week. But it doesn't mean that there won't be terrible rain and wind. Again, I am not a forecaster, but you asked, so that's my opinion. My opinion is that the astrology points to, even if there's not a hurricane, it's going to be something unpleasant. The astrology for next week looks a little rough, to say the least. But again, astrometeorology is an even younger science than meteorology is. So, many original founders of meteorology tried to incorporate astrology into their understandings and failed to get meaningful results. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't get meaningful results today with our modern understanding of forcings of the atmosphere. Anyway, full moons also bring high tides, so let's keep an eye out for anywhere that would have, like maybe in the Pacific Northwest here, anything that looks like maybe it'll have a nasty little time next week, like that that sounding. Maybe we should be careful of storm surge. But I mean, let's go back a few days. Let's see if anything looks like it wants to. Again, guys, I am not a forecaster. I just tell you what happened. I tell you what already happened. Let's look at the two pressure. The PVU is potential vorticity units. So this is kind of like potential temperature, in that it is what the pressure would be if everything else was the same. And this is the pressure level at which we reach two potential vorticity units. And then our theta at 2 PVU, again, looks like we are definitely streaming some of this upwards, but we've got this high type circulation in place. I mean, we've definitely got some looks like some veering and some backing happening, but yeah, I'm not seeing what would become the low at this point in time for next week, based on GFS alone. I mean, we've got good frontogenesis parameters at the 700 millibar height here. As we go further back, I think it's going to be another one of these situations that we've seen in the past week, where there is Gulf of Mexico onshore lower level winds coming into Texas, and then also some upper level mountain air bringing a lot of moisture and disturbance into perhaps make some isolated spin up storms. So there could be probably some isolated thunder showers, especially in the plains, but I don't at this current model run, don't see a hurricane happening a week from now. But that's a big but. The astrology looks bad. And let's go back to Zoom Earth. There is an invest area off the western coast, the Pacific coast of Mexico. Let's see. Well, it's not an invest area yet. It's an area of interest. It's a disturbance. But I think it is actually headed southeast. So, no other warnings or information. Just Zoom Earth has that listed as a disturbance. They also have a disturbance area of development possible here too. It has a 40% chance of development in the next 7 days. I would say there looks like there's going to be a lot of wind shear. So it's not a very favorable climate for development. But there is the ingredients are there. The water is hot, the winds are high, we have long heating hours of the day, the sun's out for a long time during the day. So it's possible that this could, through the next few model runs, they come out every certain amount of hours. I think it's like 6 or 12 or something. There's the 0Z and the 12Z, so I don't remember. It's different for each model, and I forgot. But it is possible that this possible development area would be growing by next week. But from this current model run, doesn't look like there's a strong development trending yet. But I haven't looked at the ensembles. I haven't looked at the spaghetti plots, as if you will. Just because, again, I'm not a forecaster, so I don't have as much experience looking at those products. I usually just look at products of what's actually happening and do nowcasting or rearcasting, as I like to call it. Did my chat go away? Did I go away for a second, or am I back? Am I back? I think I'm back. My screen froze where I was broadcasting from for a little bit there. So, yeah. So, yeah, will there be a hurricane in South Texas next week? I don't know. Perhaps. Maybe if you want there to be one, you can choose to be on the timeline where this disturbance develops. But if you don't want there to be one, you can choose to be on the timeline where one doesn't develop. And if that sounds like I'm just telling you to pray, then that's what you're hearing and not what I'm saying. But I'm not saying we could pray the hurricane away, but I am saying that maybe you could choose to be in the version of existence where it doesn't exist. Have I made that clear as mud? Okay. I think I need to close that. I'm not better than a forecaster. Forecasters think they're better than everyone else. And I don't. Making me better. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks, Jenny. I appreciate that. I appreciate your support too. I appreciate y'all coming out every night. I would like to try to make this more of a friends thing. So I do make coloring book pages, and I'm going to start releasing them soon for us to do together. So, maybe I'll switch my video. These are the coloring book. This one's not done yet, but this is an example of the little coloring book pages that I make. So if y'all would be interested in downloading these for yourself, please let me know, and I will work on getting high quality scans. I've done a coloring book page for every month of the year so far this year, and I've got tons of backstock. So if you would ever want to hang out and just color, and I want to hear from you guys what you know about the weather and what you know about the earth or any aspect of life that you're as interested in as I am in this stuff. I'd love to learn from you guys too. So, and I like to hang out with people by doing coloring books because I'm a big kid. Okay, so now we're going to get into the part that is the least arguably scientific, but the most accurate feeling vibe-wise. I'm going to get into the cosmic weather report by getting a little answer from the tarot. What's happening out there? What's going on out there? What is the vibe coming in from the part of the universe beyond our solar system, from the parts of this universe that are beyond our galaxy. What's the smell on the wind of the beyond solar wind, of the galactic wind? What are the galactic winds doing? All right. Oh, I got 2 today. Haha. Oh. We got the Wheel of Fortune and the 2 of Pentacles upright. So both of these cards I love because they're all about cycles and vibes. That's what we've been talking about. The Wheel of Fortune both rises and falls in your favor and out of your favor. Let's talk about that one first. It has the, I think, Egyptian god of death on it, as well as the Egyptian, what's it called? The word for the, psychopomp. Is it Toth and Set? No, it's Set is one of them. Anyway, they are on this, as is the snake god. These all 3 have significance in ancient Egyptian theology, as well as in the 4 corners. We see another rendition of, as we saw on the world card the other day, the 4 corners have renditions of the 4 fixed sign animals. So we have the angel up here for Aquarius, the water bearer, the bull down here for Taurus. We have the lion or griffin for Leo, and we actually have an eagle instead of a scorpion for Scorpio. However, it could also be seen as the phoenix, which is the ascended version of the Scorpio archetype. There are many meanings to the Scorpio archetype. In many ways you can embody fixed water sign, and phoenix is sometimes interchangeably used with the scorpion to represent Scorpio. I know, very, very weird, but anyway, it also says tarot on the Wheel of Fortune, as well as containing Hebrew and alchemical symbols. Symbols for well, Aquarius is one of them, but I forget what the other symbols are. Anyway, the Wheel of Fortune goes up and down. You live and die and are reborn again. There are so many stages to the process that can be divided into 3s and 4s, which is why the number 12 is really important, because it's 3 times 4. And we're also in the heavens, and this should remind us of weather again, because this goes back to the cyclical nature of all of the oscillations that make up the clouds themselves. This has like a shading on the clouds where it looks like we are looking up at the cloud, which is hiding the sun or occulting the sun. Sometimes in telescopes or in photography, you need to use something called a sun occulter, which is you need to block out the sun so that your contrast can be, your exposure can be wide enough. You can have a large enough exposure to get the near sun images without blinding your camera by looking straight at the sun. This happens both on those Soho LASCO coronagraph images, and also in the research I did in meteorology on cloud iridescence. You have to block out the sun with an occulter. It can just be a little piece of paper or your thumb. You could just hold your thumb out and block your to look at the things close to the sun. Anyway, what I'm saying is there's an importance in knowing which stage of the cycle you're at and what stage of the cycle you're trying to pay attention to in order to get the most valuable information and experience from that cycle. The whole concept of the occult or the occulted, what is hidden, is that some things need to be hidden in order for the rest of the stuff to be known. You have to have knowns in order. You have to have unknowns in order to define what your knowns are. And that is why I do include things that are considered part of the occult in this weather recap, because I think it's really important to include both good science and bad science. I think it's important to the scientific process to show what different methods will do in response to the same question. We're testing out methodology here of what if I just observe the same systems every day. And I think of this minor arcana card with this major arcana card. I think of these in tandem all the time, so it's really cute that they popped out together, because in addition to this one showing you so much about weather and the occult and the reasons why we sometimes need to hide knowledge in order to seek it, and the whole reason of why we would need to be born, live a life, and die over and over again in order to see all three aspects of the different phases of the cycle, the 1, the 0, and the -1. We also remember that there's a 4 aspect and a 2 aspect to waves and cycles. This is indicated by the waves in the background. This is also indicated by the infinity loop, or honestly, I like to think of this as being the shape of the Lorentz attractor, the so-called the butterfly in the butterfly effect. You didn't just call it the butterfly effect for nothing because it was a fun metaphor he thought of. It was called the butterfly effect because the mathematical entity of an attractor is one thing, and then there are strange attractors. There are different types of attractors where linear systems will tend to converge upon solutions near this area. There are strange attractors like the Lorentz in Lorentz's work, where it's kind of a 3-dimensional infinity sign that from a certain angle looks like a butterfly. It's a 3-dimensional attractor that all the solutions for a system can converge on. Anyway, that is all to say that even the most chaotic solutions can find order out of them. And also, this is such a discombobulated reading, but I have a feeling that whoever needs to hear this will hear what they need to hear out of it. My favorite part of this card is the fact that in the back, you have the little boat and the big boat, and that always reminds me of the fact that a smaller boat, if you see it, well, it's not a very good comparison because the waves are actually scaled with the size of the boat here. But if that little boat went over the size of wave that this big boat is going over, it would be 4 times its size. Whereas this big boat can go over it, and it's only about 1 times its size. It's only about the size of the boat itself, meaning that little boats find a disturbance before a big boat. All of that together means that if you feel like you are trapped in an insignificant cycle, doing nothing or making very small menial changes to the cycle of the world, you are probably a small boat feeling the big wave before everybody else does. And if you don't see any changes coming, your boat is probably too big to notice, and you need to ask people on little boats what they're experiencing. That's my rant about intersectionality is if you think things are fine and dandy, ask people who are going through some hard shit what the world is really like, and you will learn better how to navigate your own waters. Anyway, I think that is enough of the vibe check for tonight. I'm just going with the tarot for tonight. I highly encourage everybody to look into the Two of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune, both upright, because there is so much more to these two cards than I have said here. And I've already said way more than I usually say about the cards. These are also numbered 10 and 2, just if you like numbers. Also, the hat that the guy is wearing on the Two of Pentacles. Look that up. The Phrygian hat. Some people say Santa Claus wears that hat. Okay, yep. He's also a jester. He's also juggling. He's wearing motley clothes. So there's something about the comedy of errors and the ups and downs in life being the only reliable thing. The first card of the Pentacles suit is the jester, just making fun of everything up and down. So, yeah, it's all waves, it's all systems, it's all circles. A circle is a wave if you stretch it out. And most attractors are circles. So, a sine wave is an attractor. All right. I think that is enough headiness for today. Fun update today. I got to see bears. I live in a place where there's bears just out and about, and I saw a mama bear and 3 cubs, and that was really cute. I also saw cows today. I went for a drive, and we took a wrong turn and ended up near a pasture where cows were grazing, and they were beautiful. And yeah, I'm very excited about that. I think really just seeing those large creatures today put me in a great mood. I saw cows and bears today. I'm happy. I'm happy as a clam. Tell I'm a Taurus. I just love to see big animals. It just makes me so happy. All right. I love you very much. Thank you so much for coming to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.